Ready to make some ahi katsu with me? Let's get started. For the tempura batter, you'll need 3/4 cup of flour, 1/4 cup cornstarch, 1 egg, 3/4 cup of cold water, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Alright, so we're gonna make our tempura batter. Go ahead and combine your flour and cornstarch. The next thing you wanna add is a little bit of salt and pepper. Whisk all your dry ingredients well, and then we're gonna add 3/4 cup of cold water. Make sure to get out all those lumps. Use a whisk, it really helps. The last ingredient for the batter is 1 egg, so go ahead and scramble that on the side and then add that to your batter. There are 2 things to keep in mind that are very important. The first thing is that your batter needs to be smooth but thick. So make sure that you're mixing it well and getting out all those clumps. The second important thing that you must remember is that we must keep the batter cold. So once you get it nicely mixed, we're gonna store it inside the refrigerator until we need it later. The next thing we're gonna make is our wasabi mayo. Another dipping sauce that is great with this dish is hot mustard mayo. So it's your preference, but I'm gonna go with wasabi mayo because I had that on hand. So all I did was combine about a 1/4 cup of mayo and that chunk of wasabi paste with a little splash of soy sauce. Great, now that we have our dipping sauce complete, I'm gonna let it sit in the refrigerator until it's time for plating. For your fish, of course, it's best to have fresh sashimi grade ahi. And when you cut them, you want to make sure they're thick slabs like this, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. And just like a spam musubi, we're going to wrap each slab of ahi in a sheet of nori. I buy my Nori Sheets from Costco. It comes in a big pack, I believe, of 100. And if you keep it in the refrigerator, or even better, in the freezer, it'll last you a very long time. It'll keep the nori very crispy and it won't get soggy. Great for when you're making sushi. Also, at this point, you want to make sure you have your oil hot and ready to go, because once we dunk these bad boys into our tempura batter, we want to put it into the oil and fry it right away. Now go ahead and bring out your cold tempura batter and some panko breadcrumbs like I have here. You're going to take 1 slab and dunk it completely inside of your tempura batter. And let me just tell you, there is no easy way to do this. Your fingers are going to get dirty. It's slippery. It's a dirty job, but it is so yummy and worth it. So go ahead, get your fingers dirty, coat every side of your ahi slab, and then you're going to pack on your breadcrumbs. And just like I said a little bit earlier, make sure that your oil is hot, because once you coat this in tempura batter and panko, you want to throw it into the oil to fry. You don't want to wait. So if you have a thermometer, make sure your oil is heated at 375 degrees. Don't be like me. I decided to skip the thermometer and just try to time it myself, and you'll see why that was not a great idea. Another way to get that panko packed on there is use your fingers. So after I dunked it into the tempura batter, I washed my hands, dried them, and then I was pressing on the panko breadcrumbs so that they stick really well. All right, let's go to the fryer. This is where I had a mini heart attack. My oil was way too hot. This is in real time that I am frying it, and look how quick it browns. I almost burnt it. I'm so glad that I stayed close to the stove because I almost lost this one. Not to mention that I thought I put a little bit too much oil for such a shallow pan. I was so scared it was gonna boil over. Thankfully, it did not. But as you can see here, I fried it for just a few seconds, and then I flipped it over, fried it again for maybe 10 more seconds, and then I took it out of the oil and let it sit on a paper towel. For the second slab, I turned off the stove because I knew my oil was way too hot. So again, if you have a thermometer to have more control over it, that would be a smart idea. For this type of dish, you want to make sure the inner part of your fish is still rare. Unless you like it fully cooked, you can fry it even longer. So even more so, you want to make sure your oil isn't super duper hot, or else you will burn the outside and the inside will still be raw. But typically, you want to eat this very raw on the inside and just cooked ever so slightly on the outer layer, as you'll see here when I cut it open. I was low-key nervous to make this because it's one of those things where it's like a surprise. It either worked or it didn't. Thankfully, it turned out good. I actually wish that I had cooked it just a tad bit longer, but I was freaking out when I was frying it because my oil was so hot, so I pulled it out pretty quick. But nevertheless, it tasted great. I love sashimi. I can eat raw fish any day, so eating it raw like this is really yummy. But typically, I think you would want to cook it maybe for like 10 more seconds just to have that white ring a little bit thicker. Mine is super thin. Here's a little close-up look. Crispy on the outside, slightly cooked but raw in the center. Now I'm gonna bring back out our wasabi mayo, and I always wanted to try this. It worked. Don't you always see them doing it on like Food Network, on the cooking shows? I've never done it, never tried to be that fancy, but for you guys, I will. Gorgeous! And if you notice, I sprinkled some furikake on there as well. Bon appetit! And this is how I like to eat it, over warm white rice. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!